Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge and the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the QBE Shootout. This is going to be a betting preview and pick show. First and foremost, thank you for stopping by. Give me about 20 minutes. I'm going to give you all the information you need to help you out if you do want to place a wager on your favorite team for the QBE. It's a pretty cool event. It's a little different. We're going to get in all that. If you've never watched it and you do really like to watch golf, it is your golf. That'll be on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm also going to do a quick recap of the Hero World Challenge. Okay, let's do this. All right, real quick. So I picked 5 guys for you, 5 guys that you could put in and build a team around and place that 6-man in. It wasn't really, I was trying to pick, I could have picked 5 guys I thought would be the best, but it was trying to build a team in a DFS perspective on the cost factor. So with that said, my approach, and I was dead on, was these 2 guys were your best guys going in. Morikawa, that was something that we'll probably never see again, where you have a 5-shot lead for Morikawa going into the Sunday and then just collapse. Right, he had the 2 double bogeys on the front 9 and did recover a bit on the back, but just was shocking. I was guessing hands down that there was no way he would lose that, but he did. Ended up with a T5, but I had Victor Hovland as my second guy in, and they both do exactly what I want for that course. It was just amazing ball strikers from tee to green, and then it was whoever had the hot putter, and that's what these guys had. And Morikawa just kind of fell apart on Sunday. My next guy in, of course, was Sam Burns. He ended up with a T3, so that worked really well. I mean, technically, worst case, it should have been first, second, third, and then even versus Koepka, which I thought was going to be a little less owned, which under those circumstances he was, and had was I think second going into Sunday, and he shot, I think it was a 76. So he fell apart also on Sunday. I know that Morikawa and Koepka, I think it was a 74, 76. Anyways, if both those guys could have just held on and not, shot way over, we'd have been good to go. But they still did pretty well. I mean, given all, the one that killed me was Jordan Spieth. And one of my subscribers even said, hey, I think that's a horrendous pick. And I wasn't that I was picking Jordan because I thought he would, win it or even come in first, second, or third. I was picking Jordan because what he does on a no-cut event is typically going to give you a ton of points versus where he actually places. But that did not happen. He did not have that Jordan-like rounds where at least 2 out of the 4, he had, a couple eagles in a round. Usually he'll go in fuego. He's going to have the bad, but he's also going to have the good. But he did not. He ended up dead last. So he got the poop emoji. My bad. We're going to have to keep an eye on Jordan Spieth going into the new year. He might be falling back into maybe some habits. I didn't get to watch a lot of Jordan. They didn't cover a lot of Jordan. So, and also we didn't have shot gain information or stroke gain information. So I'm going to have to do some analysis before he ever gets to my picks again. So where I missed was actually picking Scotty Scheffler or even Patrick Reed. If you would have had Scotty Scheffler or Patrick Reed plugged in here, and with this 4 guys, you'd been good to go. Okay, let's talk about the course that they're going to be playing the QBE Shootout at. They've been here since 2002. When the course opened, it is in Naples, Florida. It is the Tiburon Golf Club, opened and designed by Greg Norman. It is a par 72, 7,382 yards. It's got Bermuda fairways, and that rough really should not say Bermuda because there is no rough. It is either you are in kind of this crushed shell-like stuff or like a sand kind of wasteland, or you are going to be in water or in like a native grass or in the trees. Like it doesn't go fairway and then cut to rough. The greens are a Tiffy Eagle Bermuda, and the player field is 24 players, which makes 12 teams, so it's 2-man teams. There is no cut, and it is a 3-day event. It is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll talk a little more about that. The winning score of the team last year was Harris English and Matt Kuchar, who shot 37 under. That sounds like a lot, but when I talk about the format, you'll understand. And English and Kuchar have kind of owned this event since 2014. So they've won it 3 times. They won it back in 2020, last year. They won it 2017. They were runner-up in 2016 and a runner-up in 2015. And then, as mentioned, won it in 2014. So you can kind of see what is that. You got Matt Kuchar, if you look at his style, right, just keeps it in play, good putter, good short game. Harris English has been coming on as one of the better ball strikers, but also a really good putter. But recently, his game has not been there. If you would have saw, kind of watched what happened at the Hero, he kind of had, I'd say, 3 rounds that were but had one good shot. I think, what was it, 9 under on what, Friday. But other than that, his game's been a little suspicious. So we'll look a little bit at that. The greens here are larger than usual or average. They're 7,200 square feet. Your average green size is 5,500. There's a ton of sand with 50 sand bunkers. You got a ton of water. So like what we see in the Florida Swing, when you think of the Honda or the Arnold Palmer or even the Players, you get a lot of this kind of water. You got to be very accurate. So 15 water hazard. Water comes into play on 13 holes. And then I'm taking an estimate from what I know with the Bermuda greens that you're probably going to be running around 11 or 12 pretty fast. But again, it is going to come down to putting. Course defense, kind of already talked about that. Water, you can see these palm trees. You've got to keep it in play. That's the short of it. We don't need guys that are super long and kind of. It's not a bomb and gouge. It is a strategic kind of plotters course. And then just simply my past notes are, you looking for the best Bermuda putters. I already mentioned the plotters. And ultimately, we're looking for that combination of some of the best ball strikers on the team put with some of the best putters. And you're going to see kind of how these teams were put together. A lot of it was guys that have played together in the past, but, they select their own. This wasn't like the PGA just came out and said, here you go. You want to be in this tournament? This is who you got to play with. All right, let's talk a little bit about the format and the scorecard so you get a little understanding what's going on here. So on Friday, the first round is going to be a scramble, and you should be pretty, familiar with this format. I'm sure you played it with your friends. If you play golf, and it is, you both hit a ball, hit a tee shot, whoever takes, you take the best one. Same on approach. Everybody's hitting a shot within the team, which is two guys, and you're going to take the best shot, and hopefully you finally get in the hole. Scoring is going to happen on that day. These guys will shoot somewhere between 12 and 13 under, all the way up to 17, 18 under. So this is where they got to do their damage, is typically on the first day. And just to kind of call out some things that I think is interesting, really the par threes are a defense of this course. Some really long par threes. So you can see number 5's 225. If we look here, number 12's 215. Number 16's 205. So Billy Horschel does really well on long par threes. And also, off the top of my head, who's not in the field, Adam Scott. But just as a note, guys that I've always seen that just thrive on long par threes. And so when you get to this kind of the next one, like 4-ball, we'll talk about, but alternate shot, if you think about the Zurich Classic, Billy Horschel, when he played with Sam Burns and that, also, he was very, these guys are very strategic on, some teams are, some are, but he's very strategic about which holes he's going to play. So he's going to try to set it up, I guarantee you, where he's teeing off on most of the par threes. Now, Sam Burns also is a great ball striker, so they can't really go wrong on who falls on those. But if I remember correctly in the Zurich Classic, that is how I remember Billy Horschel kind of setting up. And they actually did pretty decent in that event. But alternate shot, just so you understand that if you don't, it is one guy's going to hit the drive, and then one guy's going to hit the approach shot, and then one guy's going to make the chip or the putt, and then it kind of goes over. But each one, they do alternate the tee shots. So it can't be where, it keeps falling where everybody's making the putt, and then the next guy's always hitting a tee shot. It does rotate. And then the last event they'll do on Sunday is 4-ball, and this is simply both players are going to play their ball out. So for each hole, you're going to play the whole hole, and then whoever has the best score, that is what you're going to take. Also known as best ball, 4-ball, best ball. Okay, I think that gives you enough on the format. Now, if we talk just a little bit about the course, I already kind of talked about a high level, but just give you some visuals. You can see what I was kind of talking about. Tree line, there's that kind of crushed sand, waste bunkers. You got a lot of native grass. So if you're not in the fairway here, you're going to be having some issues. And then, there's the water running the whole length of some of these holes. So you definitely, again, have to be very accurate. Again, if you want to see more, go check out YouTube, type in round 1 highlights of the QBE Shootout for 2020, and you'll get your, kind of visual and see what some of the guys were doing there. Short game comes in huge here, putting. We got to find the guys that typically do well putting on Bermuda. Now, because there's no DFS, Fantasy National does not have an actual, models and events for this, or, the ability to create models. But I was able to kind of sidestep that. What I did is you can grab the whole top 150 FedEx players. And then I built a model anyways, and then just kind of pulled the guys that we're looking at and looked at the last 12 rounds, what I'm focusing heavily on is off the tee, looking for guys that hit good drives. Now, good drives, it means you hit the fairway or the first cut, but you hit on your approach shot, you hit the green. So it's kind of a combination. Fairways gained. So you got almost 25% really looking at guys that are hitting fairways. I put 20% on approach, 15% on putting. This would be short game around the green. So kind of doubling up on that. And then those par threes at 200 plus, I threw that in at 10%. Ball striking, I want to see the guys and the putters, the combination. But, we're looking for the best ball strikers along with the putters. And then I threw in birdies just to see the guys, again, looking at the last 3 tournaments they played, who's still scoring well. You put that all in. And if I click my rank, the best guys that come up are in this list: Burns, Connors, Leishman, Kokrak, right? You got some current winners with Burns and Kokrak. We haven't seen Bubba Watson in a while. He's actually playing with Lexi Thompson. I am missing 4 players. Lexi Thompson, which would not come into this because she's, of course, on the LPGA. But for whatever reason, Graham McDowell, who I like, with Corey Connors, even though I think he's ranked around 125 world ranking, he's not coming up. Will Zalatoris, I think at this time, because he was not PGA status, did not come up. And then Sean O'Hare, which, Sean O'Hare is a good putter, and that's about all you need to know. He's, been on the tour for a while. Actually had a good showing, I believe it was at the Bermuda. But we'll look at some other things just to fill in some of those gaps. But just letting you know, I'm missing 4 players, but at least it gives you a good understanding of the field and who's been doing well from a recent form. And then the next thing that I wanted to look at was who's the best Bermuda putters. And I only went 12 rounds back because some of these guys haven't played in a while. But, I wanted to kind of keep it as recent as possible. Typically, when I look at putters, I do 24 rounds. So I went with 12, and you can see some of the best putters as of recently. And I thought what was interesting was Corey Connors, because we always think of Corey Connors as an awesome ball striker, but a terrible putter. But honestly, his last few rounds on Bermuda, he's done pretty well. And some of it's been pretty recent. I'll look and we'll talk about that. Kokrak, of course, with that recent win, also, has been, 2021 was, actually a great putter. So holding that, Kevin Na's been a little while, but what we know about Kevin Na, typically really good with the irons, can get a little wayward off the tee, but, just awesome short game. And he's done very well in this event in the past. I believe he played with Sean O'Hare last year. We'll look at some past results too, just so you can see some of that. But this gives you an understanding of who's been putting well. Funny enough, Brent Snedeker, we always kind of thought of as a great putter, but he's been really bad as of recently. But, again, you never know. Jason Day, also in this event. And I'm going to go through the teams and the pairings so you guys know who we're talking about. But Jason Day has also not been the putter he has used to be. And then the last thing I want to look at is best ball strikers. And of course, if you look at best Bermuda putter, best ball striker, Sam Burns is your number 1 guy. And then you got Billy Horschel, who also really brings a lot of good putter on Bermuda, really good on long par 3. So that's, and they are the number 1 team with the worst odds from a betting perspective, and that's why. But there is some teams that I'm kind of interested in that we'll talk about that, has a little better odds than those guys. Okay, with that said, let's go jump. I want to show you just a few other things, and then we'll go over the teams. Okay, so jumping over into Fantasy National for a little bit, then we're just going to look at some past PGA results. So the team that I'm on, I'll just tell you right now, is Corey Connors and Graham McDowell. And why is there's a mix? Part of it is they have decent odds comparative. They're 11-1. And I think as a team, I think they're the best team at those odds. Now, there's 2 teams that I think are better than these guys, but the odds are not good from a golfing perspective. Now, again, there's only 12 teams. So if you typically bet on football, you're going to get better odds in some of this than typically what you get if you bet on a football game. So, we'll talk about that. But long story short, Corey Connors, we've got to see him. He has played somewhat recently, right? The RSM, Shriners, Sanderson Farms. The number 1 thing is, he hits the ball on average. He's not super long, but he hits it about 300 yards. But he's very accurate, and he's very good at hitting greens. One of the best ball strikers in the game, as far as I'm concerned. It's just been the short game and the putting that's kind of let him down. Not too far off from like a Victor Hovland, but Victor, as of late, has kind of gotten the short game working a little better, and the putter's been working for him. But what I thought was interesting on Corey is you can see over his last 5 rounds, he's actually been gaining with the putter almost a stroke. And you can see that here. So Shriners, that's Bermuda. He gained 5 strokes. That's the tournament in Vegas. Sanderson Farms, he broke even. But if we click on where has he done his best, of course, he won the Valero back in 2019, gained 2 strokes. That was Bermuda. Sanderson Farms, he had a runner-up. That he, was a stroke and a half that he gained. Arnold Palmer, that's Bermuda, gained almost 4 strokes back, not this season. The Sony gained 2 strokes with the putter. Bermuda, RBC Heritage, at a fourth. That course would be a good comp course. Now we're not going to get in all the comp course stuff, but that's a course that you could reference. That you kind of need. I think also the Honda would be a good. Who's done well there. So in this field is actually Matt Jones. So, you could think about him. A lot of water. You got to keep it in play. Bermuda greens. But all I was trying to call out here is where Corey has done some of his best damage was putting on Bermuda. And then Graham McDowell, who, we don't think a whole lot about. But what does he do that's very well? Again, he's not long, but he's very accurate. He hits the greens, so that's good. And he also, over his career, has gained almost a half stroke when he putts on Bermuda's his best surface. Graham McDowell used to actually be a really good putter. His putting as of late has not been that great. Let's click on here. All right. So what do we have for him? We had the RSM, the Houston, the Mayakoba, right? Missed the cut on all those, but the Bermuda, where he kind of had his shining, and for whatever reason, typically on what I call the vacation swing or the island tour swing, he does do well there. And I was kind of on him for those events, but we don't have stroke gain data for this, but we know overall he gained 8 strokes at the Bermuda. We also know the Bermuda, of course, has Bermuda greens. And I would have to guess a few of those strokes gain happened on the greens for him. So I feel pretty good about that. And then if we click on where he's done some of his best work, Corrales, where he's actually had his last win, that's past Palm, but that is very close to a Bermuda type surface. So I'm good with that. OHL, which is Mayakoba, that's past Palm too. So slower greens. RBC, where he had a win, and that kind of course, as I said, fits him. Kind of a plotter's course. Just got to keep it in play, hit the greens, make your putts. That's a while ago. Don't get me wrong, but that is Bermuda too. But you can kind of see, Arnold Palmer, RSM, some courses, the Sony, the Wyndham, a lot of Bermuda, the Honda. So this kind of fits. And so when I'm picking a team I'm trying to figure out who's the best team for the best odds. That's where I ended up falling on Corey Connors and Graham McDowell. We'll go look at the rest of the second, but I'll just give you that right now. All right. You, of course, can do this too. Go look at past PGA results. But I just thought I'd pull up real quick just so you can see some names of who's done well. I mentioned already Harris English and Matt Kuchar. You had Kevin Na, Lonzo Griffin and Mackenzie Hughes are not in the field, but Kevin Na and Sean O'Hare are. They're not on the same team. You've got Kokrak with Na, but you can kind of see they've had some good success here. Trying to see who else. Bubba Watson has done pretty good here. You got Mark Leishman. They're not together, but they have different pairs. So I thought I'd just show you that real fast. Again, you can go through, look at 2020, of course, Sabatini and Tway. So when you look at this, it's kind of the ham and egg, right? You got driving distance, but with decent accuracy, pretty good putter. Kokrak with JT Poston, right? So same thing, putter, ball striker. Horschel, I would put these guys kind of very similar where, they're kind of, you didn't really have one awesome. I mean, Palmer can get hot with the putter, but, not the greatest ball striker at times. Harold Varner and Todd, there you go. Great ball striker, really good putter. That looked like a killer matchup. This matchup here is kind of funny where I think they're both very similar players. These two guys, Connors and Hovland, best ball strikers probably on tour, but they both don't have the short game or putter. So not the greatest pairing, but awesome ball strikers. So anyways, and then here, Wolf and Putnam, you're putting together one time, Matthew Wolf, awesome ball striker, get you the distance. Andrew Putnam, an awesome putter. So with that said, that's just something to think about, again, when you're trying to look at the teams. And then if we go and take a step back and look at the Zurich, just so you can see, again, Leishman, who won it with Cam Smith. Again, but I'm just pulling these out as Leishman has had good past experience in these kind of team events. You have Burns and Horschel. I brought that up to show you this. Of course, they had the T4 just here recently, so have played together, do work well together. You had Scheffler and Bubba, who had a TA, but Scheffler's not in it, but Bubba is. Trying to see if anybody else stands out here that's in this event. Got Kokrak again. He was with Patty Perez. Nothing to really write home about. And then here you go, Graham McDowell with Matty Wallace. At least they made the cut. Now, there was quite a few teams, and there was quite a few that did not make the cut in the Zurich that was recent. So, again, if you want to dive deeper in, go type in past PGA results, pull up the Zurich, maybe focus even more on the QBE. But I just wanted to give you that little bit of background information. All right, let's go talk about the teams. Okay, so real quick, let's talk about the teams. I've already stated my favorite team at the odds of 11 to 1 would be Mr. Corey Connors and Graham McDowell. But, I mean, these guys that set the mark, they know what they're doing on this. The top two teams, which I think they've got it nailed, Burns and Horschel, Kokrak and Na, are 3.5 to 1 and 5 to 1. But again, like I said, if you typically throw money on a football game, you're not typically even getting those kinds of odds. So, I know you're 12, you're picking 1 out of 12, but I think these guys are, your forefront leaders. Now, who else could sneak in here? You got English and Kuchar, which I mentioned have just done amazing here, but both their games have not been where they were previous. But will they get back on this course as they've done? And, the horses for courses, you could definitely put a bet at 6.5. It would not shock me if they won this thing. Then you got Homa with, Kevin Kisner, Mad Max and Kisner, their games, especially Kisner, has just not been good. Now, Kisner won the Wyndham, but really that's it. If you look at his 2021 season, he kind of had that peak little 4 days, and other than that, and then it's not Poa and Max Homa. I'm kind of off on those guys. If you look at Leishman, of course, I mentioned how much success he's had, but Jason Day again has struggled, has not been playing good golf. So as a team, I'm a little nervous that Leishman might have to carry. Now Jason Day out of nowhere could get that super hot putter, and he did have some pop-up events over the last 2021 season, but overall, I'm kind of off on that. Ian Poulter and Howell, that's an interesting one, right? I mean, they both are kind of similar, kind of plotters, kind of good putters. So again, I'm not dissing on those guys, but again, as I mentioned, I'm going with kind of the best odds for the team. I like Connors and McDowell. Now, Will Z and Sean O'Hare, right? You've got an amazing ball striker with Will Z. Sean O'Hare, all he really can do is putt. Over his life, I think he gains. I think right now, if you look at over the past 6, he's gained like 6 strokes with the putter. So you could make an argument for that team too. Ryan Palmer and Matt Jones. I mentioned Matt Jones, who won the Honda. But both their games have not been where I would want to see him. Ryan Palmer has, just not been. He had that really nice beginning of the year for 2021, but since then it's kind of fallen off. Brian Harman, Hudson Swafford. Now, this is an interesting team. Typically, right, Brian Harman, a really, accurate kind of plotter, typically a good putter, but he has not been having the game he has. But Hudson Swafford, not a good putter, but where he has done damage is on past palm greens. But he's been ball striking the shit out of the ball. So, again, you can make an argument for those guys. And then you got the pairing of Cage Lee and Snedeker. Now, if Snedeker has been, what Snedeker was, I think that's a really good team because Cage Lee has been awesome, right? He had the win at the Byron Nelson, I believe, if I'm correct, in Texas. He's been ball striking amazingly, but a terrible putter. But Snedeker, as I mentioned, has not been a good putter. So I'm kind of off on those guys. And then Lexi Thompson, Bubba Watson. Now, funny enough, when I first looked at this, I was thinking it was Michael Thompson, who I was all over, I think, for the RSM. And I was all over this 28 to 1, but then I found out it was Lexi. Not saying that they still couldn't do something, but you give me the ball striking of Bubba Watson and the short game of Michael Thompson, if that's what it was, but it's not. So I retracted that bet once I actually found out it was Lexi Thompson, who I do believe has played in this event before. I don't know if they played together. I didn't go back and far enough to look at that. But all in all, I give you kind of an understanding of, if you want kind of the odds thing, I think these two teams on paper should be your, 1 or 2. I think they nailed it. But out of all the rest of these teams for the odds, I'm going to go with Corey Connors and McDowell. So that's my pick, 11-1, straight out. And then, like I said, I give you my ideas on the other guys. So that's it. With that said, man, I just want to do a quick show for you guys. And funny enough, right here on the tee is Lexi Thompson at the QB. So she was with the little, looks like Finau. I don't know when that was, but I'm seeing Finau and Thompson. It looks like, yeah, Woodland with, I don't know who that is. Maybe that's, yeah, don't know. But anyways, do me the favor and the honor of clicking that like button. Share with anybody else. Again, quick show. Follow me because once the season gets in full swing, I will be the guy for golf that is going to break down and give you a really good deep preview show. I really go through the analytics and kind of open up the hood and show you all the process that I do from making my picks. And then I always give you that right before the lock kind of show that's going to go over ownership projections and weather and anything that comes out that we need to know about before locking in those final picks. So if you are not a subscriber, do me the honor, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I do always keep an eye on any withdrawals or anything that we need to know. I'm connected to the PGA Tour Communications and give you the information as soon as I get it. All right. With that said, again, you guys have a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and I hope this helps if you do want to place a bet on the QBE. All right, guys, take care.